Where's the
musky,
Lebowski? You want that
musky,
Lebowski? Bunny says you're good for it. Where's the
musky,
Lebowski? Where's the
musky,
Lebowski? Where's the
musky.
It's
It's down there somewhere. Let me take another look.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another week of Muskies on Tap, bringing to you episode number 60 here on this late June evening. And we have a very special guest this week. We brought in Jody Marler with Fishcamp. And for those that haven't watched any of his stuff, we absolutely highly recommend his videography and photography, and everything he does for hunting, fishing, and log homes is incredible. We go into details of a lot of things. He is well versed and well traveled in musky fishing as well as saltwater fishing and hunting. And we just had an absolute blast. So before I go any further, I'm your host, Gus, and I'm going to introduce the other co-hosts here on tonight. We got none other than my brother, Max. How you doing tonight, Max?
Doing good. New place is coming along here. I think I'm actually becoming an expert in building IKEA furniture. So that's been a new little notch in the old belt. Really becoming,
Didn't think of you as a handyman.
just grinding it out, man. It's been good. I've been watching a lot of fishing videos, which is very on point here tonight, having Jody on. But yeah, I've been watching a lot of fishing videos, building a lot of stuff. It's been a lot of fun. Haven't been able to do much fishing this June, which is a bummer. Really excited to get back out on the water up in northern Wisconsin here starting next week. But I did sneak out onto Lake Minnetonka for a little bit, guys. I was very, very fortunate.
Whoa.
Yeah, I got to shout
Holy
out Ryan. I know. I got to shout out my buddy Ryan Holler getting me on Lake Minnetonka for a little bit. We had a good time out there. Really cool body of water. I've been out there to hang out. I haven't been out there to musky fish it. So he showed me the ropes a little bit. It's a very interesting body of water. There's a lot to look at. Should be a really interesting PMTT event when that comes up in late August. But yeah, we had a lot of fun. So I'm hoping to get out again a few more times before the tournament in August. But I was glad to get out there for a bit. So other than that, yeah, like I said, not much fishing for me right now. Haven't been able to get up north. So looking forward to changing that here next week. And that's going to be with none other than our other co-host here, Brian Eckel. Brian, how we doing? Looking forward to seeing you next week, buddy.
Yeah, likewise. I'm doing terrific. I this whole week I keep thinking like this coming weekend is 4th of July, just because we've been talking about it so much. Yeah, looking forward. I'll be up there Thursday. We're gonna lash and mash and throw some at the flag stick. A little friendly comp, and then yeah, I think the other mornings we'll try and scoot out and do some fishing. So looking forward to that. Never really know what you'll get. Yeah, maybe tonight. Yeah, never really know what you'll get beginning of July. We typically don't fish 4th of July much, but yeah, I'm excited to see. Might be like one of those deeper sandgrass bites. We'll see.
We'll find out. Man. Yeah, we'll kind of
talk
do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, we'll talk to Gus here and see what's been going on in the North Woods and kind of see what we can anticipate. I will say, fishing Tonka, those deep weeds, I haven't done much of that this year, outside of trying to do it a little bit in Madison, but that was fun. Good way to fish. Hitting those little bigger systems. Tonka was pretty far progressed, I would say. Not that I am an expert at Lake Minnetonka after being out there for only a few hours, but from what it seemed like, weeds were really healthy. Fish were set up in spots you'd imagine them to be. So yeah, it was good to see. It seems like a healthy fishery. We saw fish from all the way from 25 inches all the way up to upper 40s. So it was cool.
What were the water temps, if you remember?
I believe they were like low 70s. So they were a little bit
Nice.
further along than northern Wisconsin, kind of right in that sweet spot where fish were kind of set up on their, more traditional areas, fouling and baits, hot. It seems to be kind of like I don't know, man. After fishing a few times now in the metro at the start of this year, that definitely seems to be a thing where they're very curious. You can get a lot of window shoppers, and that's just kind of the deal. I mean, we did get one bite, unfortunately, it didn't hit the net, but nonetheless, got to definitely see the potential of that lake, and it was just good to kind of be in some water that was a little bit more further progressed. I mean, really all the fishing I've done this year has been cave and southern Wisconsin opener, which we don't have to get into that again, and northern
Yikes.
Wisconsin opener in Madison. And so that was just a lot of non-traditional lakes were kind of in a weird spot at the time every time I fished this year. So getting out onto a body of water that seemed to be a little further along was getting me real excited to get going here on these summer patterns.
Sweet. Well, we'll if anything talk about it a little bit more in the outro, but before we get a little too far ahead and well, actually, before the interview, I do want to do a little shout out. I don't know if anybody else is having a little something on tap tonight other than the interview coming up, but I got a citywide APA that a recent client brought me some beer from Four Hands Brewing Company out of St. Louis, Missouri. Sipping on that right now. Not gonna lie, it's very tasty. It's hitting the
Muskies on
spot.
tap. You might think we're experts on beer, but what the hell is an APA?
American Pale Ale.
Oh,
You
yummy.
just got to sound it out, Brian. Yeah, I'm drinking tonight a little known beer. Not sure if you guys are familiar with this one. It's called a Corona Extra.
Las
Not
Cervezas?
sure if you've heard of this one before.
I had a few 5-6 of those this last weekend, man. Those are tasty.
Sure you did, buddy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when that weather heats up, for whatever reason, that Corona just starts looking better and better in the fridge.
Every
So,
time.
yeah,
Every time.
it's a weird thing. I don't know if it's like the clear bottle or what it is, but just
What's
something
on
about
your-
it that speaks to me.
Makes you
What's
find
on
your
tap
peach.
for you guys over the 4th?
Ooh, some game
Whatever's
changers.
Yeah, whatever's in
game
front of me.
changer. Yeah.
What's
Whatever's in front of me. No drink safe.
I don't know. I mean, come on now. It's 4th of July is
Margs.
always a good time. I'm sure
Margaritas.
I'm sure we'll mix up a few game changers for those of you that don't know what those are. It's a lot of vodka and a little bit of bubbler, which is great. But yeah, I think before we start getting into too much alcohol talk, we got a great interview to give to you guys here. Jody was unbelievable and very generous with his time here tonight. We got to cover a bunch of different topics. He's somebody I've been looking forward to having on here for a while. We've all been following his stuff, and he's just got a great eye for the outdoors. So if you haven't, make sure to check him out, and hopefully you guys enjoy this interview. With us here tonight, we have a very special guest, Jody Marler with Fishcamp Creative. Just dropped a great edit out last night. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out on his YouTube channel. We'll get into all that stuff here in this interview. We really appreciate Jody coming on here. Jody, how's it going tonight?
Great, man. Great to be with you guys. And yeah, like what you guys are doing. And, Wisconsin holds a pretty special place in my heart, being originally from Chicago. So I know the country you guys are in. So it's always good to get back there.
Right on. Well, let's just start there then, shall we? I mean, I've been, like I said before we recorded here, I've been following your stuff for quite some time, and I've noticed that you've kind of poked around a little bit up in the northern Wisconsin area, Upper Peninsula.
Yeah.
What got you up there? I mean, when did that all start, and what keeps you coming back?
Oh man, that's a big question. Being from Chicago, don't hold it against me. Everybody in Chicago has a connection to Wisconsin or Michigan. So my dad would take me and my brothers up to the UP when we were kids, bow hunting back in the 70s. And I mean, man, it just planted a seed in me and my brothers. And so I bought a camp up there years ago. I lived in Marquette, Michigan, lived on Lake Superior. But Wisconsin, my grandparents had a house in Woodruff. So we would go up there all the time. I remember my dad was going up at one point, and I mean, I was a little kid, and he said he was going up to Woodruff, and he told me I couldn't go. And I was crushed, man. Like, dude, what are you kidding me? You got to take me. I love that place. So we kind of grew up in that area and just, you know, love the smell, everything about it. The waters, of course. So, yeah.
And when did when did muskies enter in your life up there? Obviously, it's a big part of the culture. You going up there since you were a kid. I mean, did you was your parents into it, or was it something you stumbled across yourself?
Yeah, it was definitely, you know, you go up there into all the restaurants and bars and you see big muskies up on the wall. And you know, there was a place in Woodruff, a bait shop up there that would have like big fish in the cooler, you know, back when guys were, you know, killing fish, and would always see those big fish, you know, anything over 30 inches was like, wow, as a kid. So, and all the teeth, of course, that always got my attention. So, we would always see muskies, whether we were walleye fishing or pan fishing or whatever. So there was always something about muskies that was just like, that is like the epitome. That is like the Northwoods fish that not everybody catches. And as we all know, we all still don't catch these on days, you know, it's just part of the deal. You know, so it's always been there, you know, the pursuit of muskies. But I will say it was probably 20 or so years ago that, you know, we would fish for them, but we'd also have a walleye rod, and, you know, and we'd give it an hour or two, whatever. And then we'd go back to walleye fishing. But 20 years ago, it was like, man, I moved a fish and ultimately stuck this fish on the Paint River in the UP. And man, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was like throw shallow and big lip on this Ratman lure. You know, lip hangs up on the log. And I'm just thinking to myself from fishing bass, I'm like, that's going to get something's attention. And as it's coming up out of, you know, from that log, all of a sudden, I mean, I just reacted. I just saw this big mouth open up and devour this. And I just reacted and like pulled away. It scared the shit out of me, you know? And I stuck that fish, and it was a 42. And I've got a picture of that fish. And I mean, it's a pretty big deal. And every time I look at that picture, it brings me right back there. It's interesting because I have yet to catch a fish from that spot again. So, but I have to fish it every time. You know, I mean, we're fishermen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know. So, yeah, that was it. That was the fish. You know, the thing is, you know, since I moved to Montana like 14 years ago, you always hear about Minnesota fish, you know, and guys I fished with, Matt Rayleigh, fished with him years back when we were fishing the Spring Classic, and to kind of learn that water a little bit more. And he would talk about fishing Minnesota. He's like, man, if you live in Montana, you should fish Minnesota. And I just drove through it to get to Wisconsin and the UP. So I started fishing Western Minnesota, like Detroit Lakes area. I actually put a post on Facebook and said, hey, anybody know place guys to fish with in Minnesota, Western Minnesota? And they're like, you got to talk to Mike Kramer. If you guys know Mike Kramer, he is just a great, solid dude. Reached out to him. he got back to me, started fishing with him, become great friends, and started catching 50s.
Intoxicating.
It is incredible. I mean, so when I was younger, it was always like that 48, like in Wisconsin. That was like the number, the size of the fish. And I mean, I think as we got into it more, that 50, the 50 club is, yeah, that's the number. So
Right.
yeah.
I'm sure that was probably tough when you got those first couple really, really big fish in Minnesota. The fact that you live in Montana and you got to drive all this way, it's like, why would I drive past Detroit Lakes or any of these other places to go back to northern Wisconsin or the UP? I mean,
Yeah.
we have yet to fish, way out over there. We're going to be at Minnetonka this
Yeah.
year. Um, and we fished Vermilion once, but other than that,
Yeah.
yeah. And we found out quickly
I
what
mean,
Minnesota has to offer.
oh, I mean, to stand and look over and have a 50 plus come in at your feet is, I mean, it's life changing, really. After spending, it's so different fishing Minnesota compared to Wisconsin. And it was hard for me to wrap my head around it. Because Wisconsin, especially Eagle Chain during the Spring Classic, you're fishing shallow, smaller baits. And you go to Minnesota and you're fishing the abyss, over 100 feet of water, and there's suspended fish. You're literally chasing a unicorn, So when it happens, it's pretty incredible. But I will say the water, and I was thinking about this today, thinking about, coming on this podcast, and Minnesota, there are lakes that are a lot like classic Northwood, Wisconsin, and UP lakes. Small, intimate, but like Detroit Lakes area, it's big, it's busy, it's kind of like Lake Geneva. And, that's not what I think of when I think of the Northwoods, I mean, I'm sure you guys can relate to that. So,
Big time.
But man, land of giants for sure. Yeah, so that the very first trip we did with Mike Kramer, he stuck a 51, and to see that thing in the net was like, stand over that thing was like, man, what a freaking giant. So the seed was planted for Minnesota right there. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I live here in Minnesota. Obviously, I don't have a boat right now here in the cities, but like I'm
Me either.
constantly, yeah, right. We heard all. We can get into that if you want, but
Yeah.
I mean, it is truly just a little bit of a different animal. I mean, like Gus was saying, that first time we went up to Vermilion, it's like our first real day of fishing up there. We moved a fish that was in a class that like we had maybe seen one other fish that size before, ever fishing for 20 years in northern Wisconsin.
Right.
And it's a different ball game. So it's kind of cool to hear, somebody that grew up fishing in northern Wisconsin, UP, kind of start converting over to some of this Minnesota stuff. Cause it is really interesting. I mean, it's real.
It is so different. It really is. But I'll tell you, I come back every year in the fall, October, to, I mean, it's great to be able to start fishing in Minnesota with a couple of guide buddies, and then go to Wisconsin, fish with my buddy Matt, and then go up to my place in the UP and fish and just soak up the Northwoods. I mean, it is so deep in my soul, that place, smell of maple in the wood stove, and and yeah, you guys know it. You guys live there, so
yeah, it's hard to beat. But let's not get off the Minnesota stuff too quick, because I saw recently you did a trip over here that you actually were in a tournament too, right?
Oh yeah.
And it sounds like you did pretty well. Had a little success.
It was awesome. So I fished with Kevin Cochran, another great dude that I met, through the years, and fished with him the last couple of years. And he reached out earlier and he's like, hey man, you want to fish with me in this tournament? And he's a guide, and it's an individual tournament, and he is just so dialed in. He fishes, this is based out of Bemidji, so you could fish Bemidji, Plantain, Jeanette, Mantrap, Cass Lake, and Big Lake, and Little Wolf, I think. And so we pre-fished the day before, and we were really dialed in. So we knew we were going to do really good, but it's a tournament. I fished tournaments and lost a bunch of money over the years to all you guys in Wisconsin on the Eagle River chain. So there's always somebody better out there, at least that's how you have to think. So we just worked hard all day, use your electronics, and man, we stuck 5 fish, landed 5 fish, which is awesome, because it's inches. And the smallest fish was 36 and a half, a 39 and a half, 242 and a half. And in the last half hour, over 40 feet of water, we got a 47, which was awesome. But we're talking to buddies of ours, Alex, and I forget his buddy, and
Tyler.
Tyler.
Yep, exactly. And they were on Bemidji. So we're feeling really good about the 3 we have. We check in with them, and Tyler had a what did he have? A 42, a 48, and then he got I think he had 3 or 4, and he got a freaking 52. Holy crap. We think we're doing good, and all of a sudden, okay, now we're thinking, there's probably other people out there doing just as well. Like, the fish just turned on and everybody's doing great. It's going to be a banner deal. So we're going back and forth. And then he sends over a text. Alex sends over a text of a photo of his 53 and a quarter. And we're like, Jesus, this is unbelievable. But that is the place. That whole, that Leech Lake strain of muskies is just incredible. So we did really well. We came in second, and Tyler got first, and it was awesome. So, and then we fished the next day, and fished till noon, hit the road, and back to Montana. Got home at 12:30 and back to work the next morning at 6. I mean, it's a grind, man, but soak it up.
Did you bring the filming stuff for that tournament at all? Like
We did. Yep. I had my camera guy with, and so that may be a winter release, talking with Kevin about it. I mean, I do have to say, it's all Kevin. We're a good team, but Kevin is so dialed in on that water. And I mean, he's a guide, it's just like, in my business, I'm a home builder. We build beautiful homes here in Montana. I've always surrounded myself with professionals. You guys are younger than I am. You get older, you lose friends and family in your life. It's like your time is more important, than money, obviously to some degree. So seek out the best people and learn, and make your time work for you. So, and that's Kevin. He's on the water. He is so dialed in, and he's a geek about it. I mean, the little things he does with, Red October tubes and I mean, stuff I don't even think of. And he's just so dialed in. Yeah, definitely. And definitely a great dude to be in the boat with all day. So, yeah.
Oh yeah. I follow Kevin on, I think, Instagram and Facebook, and he always has like stories of just every once in a while he puts out like a I don't know if he's like giving away a tip or something, and it's like some random lure,
Exactly.
like go and get
Yep.
these, like you have to. Minnesota fish are crushing these, or he shows like a random thing he did with the tube with like zip ties and this and that. It's like, holy crap.
Exactly. Right. And it works. I'm telling you. I mean, we got all of those fish on tubes. I mean, it was just awesome.
I
Yeah.
gotta love
Can't
the
say
tube.
enough about them.
Love the tubes.
Tubes.
Yeah, that's cool. So, congrats on that. I mean, that sounds like a very successful trip over this way.
Yeah. Yeah. I still have a smile on my face about it.
Yeah, I could imagine. I mean, it's, obviously catching 4 or 5 fish any day is a great day out in the water, but to be able to piece that together during a tournament's kind of a whole
It's
feels like a
exactly.
whole different feeling, I mean, it's
Exactly. And we lost two others. I mean,
oh
just
wow.
yeah. I mean, I think what ended up happening on this one fish, it swiped at it, and as that tube jigged or dropped, it missed it and just shredded the line. So you got a full
Really?
leader on, and everything's gone. It was like, what the heck happened? So
Jeez.
yeah.
Well, let's touch on some film and stuff. I know Gus just brought it up. I mean, Fishcamp Creative, is that kind of the, I guess, is it hunting and fishing with that, or is that just
It
the
is.
fishing part? Okay, so hunting and fishing. When did that all start? I mean, how did you kind of get your foot in the door with the filming aspect? Because obviously it must have come a long way, because it's like cinematic quality at this point. So I
Yeah.
don't know how it got rolling, but I'd like to hear about it.
Yeah, pretty cool story actually. Where we live and the homes we build here in Montana. And this is all I've done since I was 16 years old, even in Chicago. And so my wife and I moved out here going on 14 years ago. And anyways, like 18 or 19, went back. I've got family who has a farm in Viroqua, Wisconsin. And we would always go there as kids and trout fish, and still go back every year. Anyways, visiting my aunt, she's like, "Oh, your cousin's having Easter. You should come by. All your cousins are going to be there. Meet up." And one of my cousin's daughters says to me, "You build beautiful homes. You should start a YouTube channel." And I'm like, "Man, I freaking hate YouTube." So, but she planted the seed. I'm like, man, I know the work we do is beautiful and love capturing it. So on that long trek back home to Chicago and then back home, I got back, and within a couple of days I posted on Craigslist here in Bozeman and hired two photographers, videographers. James Williams, who worked with me forever, and Gabrielle Lewis. And she actually did a lot of our illustrations. And, so it started on our homes. And then, I'm so fixated on hunting and fishing that, and where we live, it's acceptable. In Chicago, I couldn't post that stuff, but here in Montana, it's expected. We're all connected to the outdoors. So we would do a float after work, and we would post that at the end of a, home building detail video. And we were getting more feedback on the fishing side of it. And then, then we introduced hunting and started doing more of that. And it just kind of grew from there. We eventually separated the channels, although I still love to do the homes. I mean, I'm as passionate about it as when I was a kid. So, but the hunting and fishing side of it, I mean, to capture this is, been doing it since I was a little kid. So to be able to have a camera guy and just capture these moments, and the hunting and fishing side of it, and capture the soul of it. I mean, we are definitely not that typical neon green, hot pink colors, to draw, clickbait. I don't give a shit about
No.
that. It's got to have soul. It's got, the people that we have, the characters, quote, we're for real, and if you're passionate about this, if you're passionate about anything, you just want to do it right. And we're getting better every day, every video that we do. And the video we just released yesterday, the film we released, I am so happy with this. I mean, the people we captured, Doug Wagner, Bob Strand, who's the Minnesota. I mean, if you appreciate muskies in Minnesota, you owe it to this guy, Bob Strand. And he was such a treat to interview. We still have a ton of footage from him that we plan to reuse in a film we're going to do in the fall. And of course, my buddy Muskie Matt, we call him Matt Lemke. Great dude, great boat partner. And, the first time we fished with Doug up in Minnesota, Matt stuck, I think it was a 47 and a 55. And that, I mean, to be a part of that and capture the whole thing is so amazing, and then it was a tagged fish as well. And they figured it to be 18 to 20 years old. And I mean, to be a part of that, and it's just incredible,
Yeah, that video was top notch. And
yeah,
I guess I don't even know if there's really an answer to this, because you kind of touched on it, but like the one thing I did want to bring up is like, if it's just maybe a compliment, but it's like, I don't know how you cultivated your aesthetic, I guess we could call it.
Yeah.
But it's really like, it's great to just watch, like throw on and just kind of let it play. You know what I mean? Like it is very calming.
Like you're in the boat.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you like got that going, but it's just like, it is very different from what your typical, which isn't, typically too, not a bad thing, but it's just very different.
Exactly. Yeah. I really appreciate that. I mean, I owe a lot of credit to James. I learned a ton from him, and he is going to do bigger and bigger things, no doubt. Basically, he's a fisherman, so he gets it. But first and foremost, he is a great film cinematographer, videographer. He's great at editing, great with light. And his finger is always on the trigger, which is super important. And I mean, that's how you catch things like that. And, it definitely wore on him. During COVID, we spent time in in Minnesota because we couldn't go to Canada. And I mean, we'd go up there for a week at a time in June, and then in July. And, we're starting to fish because the water temps were so warm. We're fishing with Mike Kramer. He's like, all right, I think, water temps are over 70. So why don't we meet at 3 a.m.? Okay, we'll drive all freaking night, sleep for an hour, maybe have a beer, go to sleep, and get up and fish in pitch black. And you're sitting there and you're just bobbing, and you feel like you're drunk because, driving all night long and sleep for an hour, and you get at it. And that's how the whole week went. And so I think he ended up catching his first and only muskie on one of those trips. But I think he's scarred for life on muskies. Just sitting there going through the grind. I mean, you guys know how it is. In the video we released, I caught a 50.5 on the last day, Bluebird day. We knew in the morning, it was like, this is the shittiest day. We're not going to catch anything. And that was the only fish we caught, but it was a 50.5, and it was a tank. And in that video, I say, man, I haven't caught a fish in 4 days. And you look back, like, I mean, we're on the water sun up to an hour after sundown, and how do you not catch a fish in that time? But you guys know that's just the deal. That's how it goes, and get up and do it again tomorrow. It's crazy. Yeah, it's a sickness. You guys are all sick.
Oh no, it's psychotic. And that's like the people that listen to this are psychotic. I mean, not only do you
Right.
spend all that time musky fishing, but if you spend your free time listening to a musky podcast, you're
Exactly.
extra sick.
Yeah, you're off the charts. And like Doug says in the video, it's like, it'll wreck relationships, it'll wreck credit scores. I mean, it's like, what? But yeah, in the end, it's all worth it. I mean, you get that fish and you hold it up for, a couple of seconds and let her go again,
Yeah. I have to laugh. When I was watching it last night, I just moved into a place and I was building a TV stand and I was watching it and my girlfriend was like making dinner or something in the kitchen. And when Doug started talking, she just starts cracking up. And I was like, all right, get back forth to this part.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I mean, there is some gold in there. And the great thing about filming this is I don't care. I will stop if I see something that is very soulful to the pursuit. Let's stop. Let's get this right. If it means, dropping the camera guy off on the bank to get how we're working around this point, I think it's important, to capture the backdrop. And so, but it's also those moments during an interview where you just feel it building and the guy is just laying down some gold, like Matt in the end. We had to put that in the end where Matt, he's a super cool guy. You're in the boat with him. He's just a great, funny guy, totally harmless. He's just a really solid dude. So in that interview, I'm asking him the questions and he's kind of very direct, a little stiff. So if you see in the end, James acts like he turns the camera off. So Matt and I are having a conversation and Matt, he's just like, it's true, right? He's like, guys will say after catching a 55, you should quit. And he takes his, turns his hat around, puts his sunglasses on, and he just says, why would you quit? You can catch a 62 out here. Like, Jordan didn't quit after one championship. Go big. Mic drop, and it was
great line.
like, yeah, that is what we want to hear, So it's super cool. It's fun. It's really fun to capture that stuff.
Yeah, I love how you try to create and capture that raw emotion of someone catching, an elusive muskie and showing the organic reactions and the whole process. And I wanted to touch on your recent trip down to chase bonefish. Kind of touch on that and get into the difference in emotion with that compared to a muskie. I mean, is that I gotta, it's a fish that I'd like to go after at some point. I gotta assume sort of that same rush as a muskie.
It's interesting. Muskie are big fish that are top tier in freshwater. Bonefish are awesome. I will say, if you haven't fished saltwater, it's really interesting because guys are like, oh, muskies are so badass. I'm like, man, you catch a 2-pound bonefish and they are screaming, and then a tarpon, they call them king of game fish for a reason, because you hook one of them. I mean, for freshwater, muskies, no doubt about it. Saltwater, I mean, everything, everything eats them. So whether they're tarpon, there's sharks that hammer them, whether they're permit, whether they're bonefish, everything is being eaten. So they fly, they want to get the hell away. So bonefish, we don't, so when we go saltwater fishing, we're fishing tarpon or permit. Again, they're difficult fish to catch. It's like, why do I put myself through this shit?
Yeah.
Bow hunting for bull elk in September. I mean, holy shit, there's nothing harder, So then let's go musky fishing. Oh, let's go chase permit on a fly in Mexico or the Keys. And I mean, it's just is sadomasochistic. So, but I will say everything in saltwater is so badass. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I mean, come February, March, ice fishing gets a little old, boys.
Oh, yeah.
Sure
Big
does.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've
Oh,
done
yeah.
some of the flats fishing. We've gone down to like the Keys and a little bit on the Gulf side of Florida. So we've
Fly
done like
fishing or
Brian, if Brian ever
conventional?
comes back, he's done. Gus and Brian have
I'm
done
on
some
here
fly.
now.
I know
I don't
Brian's
know if you can hear me.
a little bit. Brian's definitely done more fly. We've done like the Barracuda, redfish, snook deal, which is a lot
Oh,
of
it's
fun.
awesome. It's
Um,
a blast.
yeah, I don't know if Brian, are you live or is your internet just like terrible tonight? It looks like you're frozen
It's
again.
just terrible. I can hear you right now. It just keeps going in and out. I don't know what's up.
Okay. He asked if we've ever done any fly fishing down for saltwater fish. I know you've done a bit of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, mainly redfish and snook on the fly. We've kind of dabbled with trying to find a tarpon while we're fly
Yeah.
fishing. I mean, we've really just spooked them. Like I haven't had a real shot at it, but I've caught a tarpon on conventional tackle. That was incredible. I mean, before I knew it, it
Oh,
was
they're badass.
hundreds of yards away from me jumping. So I can't imagine what
Exactly.
that
And
would be
just
like on the fly.
screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're just down, my wife, every year we go fish 5 days for Memorial Day weekend and fish with a couple of buddies down there, all on a fly. And this year, man, I stuck a tank. And man, I fought that thing for an hour. And I mean, that rod was doubled over, and I am just giving it the heat and it had it up to the surface. I mean, legally, if it was a tournament, we would have caught that. It would have been a legal caught fish.
Wow.
But I have yet to hold on to 100-pound tarpon, you know, just grab them by the face and get that money shot, you know, and that's all I want, you know, and then you let
Yeah.
them go, just like muskies. So fighting this fish, and man, we get them by the Bahia Honda Bridge, and I mean, I just couldn't peel this fish off the bottom anymore. And man, that graphite exploded. Brand new rod, first fish I had on it, and just broke it right above the ferrule. And of course, you give that little bit of slack, and that fish is gone. So that was a bummer. We did
Jeez.
catch some other fish, but and it was a great trip, best one we've had so far. But there is nothing like tarpon in saltwater. You know, they're so different than muskies. You know, muskies, it is power. It is right here, and you know, it's fairly immediate. Shit goes wrong. Things could get broke. Tarpon, as you know, man, I mean, to get that thing in, it's quite a bit, you know.
Yeah. Well, all right. I got a little bit of a philosophical question then for you, talking about all this
Hey,
stuff. So, so you're talking that you fly fish for permanent tarpon. You love chasing muskies. The bow hunting in the fall in Montana. What do you think attributes to a person that chases this type of stuff for out? That dedicates their time to doing this type of stuff.
that's a great question. And, you know, I think for me, you know, we build multi-million-dollar homes, you know, big shots. And, you know, I see photos and places that they've gone and places, you know, and fish they've caught. And, you know, it's easy to say, well, you know, you throw $5,000 at that, of course you're going to do that. You know, what I love about this is if you are doing, you know, you're chasing elk in wild country one-on-one, you're catching that 50, you know, you're putting your time into it. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at it, you have to put the time in to do it. And you learn every time you go out, every time you screw up, and every time you succeed. And that there's nothing like that. To stand over that, you know, 6-point bull that you killed with a bow to get that 50 in and get that shot and, and then release that fish. And I mean, there's nothing like it. It's chasing unicorns. I
Yeah.
mean, that's it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's true. And I mean, I guess, I promise I didn't smoke any weed here before this podcast, but there's probably some parallels too with like your job and your career. I mean, if you're building these gigantic homes, like you don't really get to see the finished product, right? Until all the hard work is done and put
Yeah.
into it. And then you get to see the final result. And I think that's, like I've talked about this with Gus and Brian before, but it's like, there's other giant freshwater fish. I mean, there's sturgeon in a lot of the lakes that we fish, but it's like it's the chase, it's totally different. Like
That's it.
if I wanted to go catch a big sturgeon on the St. Croix, I'm sure it'd be a blast, but you don't really get that feeling of like going and chasing a muskie or a permit
Right.
or a tarpon or something like that, right?
Exactly. That's it. I mean, and it's the question that we ask everybody: ait or away from the boat? I want it at my feet. I want that show going on right at my feet, and keep your shit together. And that's the other thing, is like throwing a Cannonball Junior or Fat Bastard, any surface bait, and then you see that rise behind it, and if fish isn't totally committed, and you got to keep that pace going and don't fuck it up. Keep your shit together and go into the 8 if you have to, and just make it happen. And it is so cool when that happens. And it is even cooler when you have it on film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something we've been dabbling with over the past years. I did like that question a lot. It actually made me think, like, I think obviously naturally I was like more inclined to say, yeah, of course I'd want something to eat in the 8, because like you feel a little bit more connected to it because you're actually like coercing the fish to eat, right? Like you're trying to do
like
something.
sight casting. Yeah.
But there is something though, like if especially fishing those tubes or whatever, and you get hit, and it feels like a nice fish or whatever, and like you have it on, there's that anticipation of like you don't know at that point how big the fish is. If it stays down, and that first visual of it kind of glowing up from the bottom, if it gets hit way out in the cast, that I think that's kind of cool too. Like, oh my God, like could be big, could be I don't know.
Hey, for the record, I'll take that too.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. There's nothing like, that first crank and you've got a fish. It was like it hits the water, they react to it and set the hook, and it's badass. And, like Matt says, it's like, now you need your partner to finish the deal and get them in the net,
Yep. Yeah. That's still, I think, a little bit of a sore subject for us right now.
I know where this is going.
Oh man. Yeah. We'll save that for after we did release some footage out into the social medias of the world with the botch net job. So that's always
that's
fun.
a bummer. I mean, it happens, it's mayhem. It's immediate mayhem, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. So last year, I stuck another 50 and a half. So Matt met me up there, but he tore his Achilles like 2 weeks before, had surgery. He's like, I'm still going. I'm like, okay. So we went up, and I mean, he toughed it out for like 3 days and he was done. He's like, man, I'm sorry to do it to you, but I got to cut this trip. I'm doing more damage than it's worth. So fished with a couple of other buddies during the day, and after dinner they didn't want to go out, so I went out on my own. Man, I'm working this rock pile, and man, this tank follows, and like nonstop. Every bait I threw, she would come up and follow it, and I'm like, okay, I know when moonrise is happening. It's in an hour. I'm coming back and there is nobody around. I mean, it's Lake of the Woods. It's just, that's the beauty of that piece of water. So I go to this other spot that I stuck my 50 the year before. And okay, I've got 5 minutes before moon. I head over to this rock pile and I threw this swim bait, and immediately that fish comes up. Man, I change it. I put on a white Medusa, and that first rip, that fish was on. And I am just like, shit, I'm by myself. I'm going to try to net this thing. And I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, that fish was upper 30s for sure. And I forgot what the girth was. It was like 24, something like that. It was a tank. So I finally net this, and I'm like, it's not even going to happen. It's not even going to happen. Next, I look, it's in the net, and I'm just like on my own, nobody around, and I'm like, holy crap, unbelievable. So, thankfully, I didn't screw that up.
Yeah, we got to celebrate the victories when they come, right? I mean, that's
exactly. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Oh
yeah.
So you talked a little bit about the hunting stuff. So that takes place kind of in between the summer muskie season and your fall trip to the Wisconsin UP area.
Exactly. So, I mean, I love it. Just it depends on the season. In the spring, I love turkey season. In the fall, right now, I don't care about hunting. I don't care. It is fishing season. It's musky season. But come September, man, switch gears, and that is my focus. And it's a pretty big deal. And then October, head up to the UP and bird hunt up there. I don't deer hunt up there anymore. I mean, I go up there and relax, bird hunt, musky fish. So, but this year we're actually doing, when I was in Illinois, I bought a lifetime hunting license. So, past couple of years come the rut, here in Montana, I don't hunt whitetails. I hunt mule deer and I hunt elk. So reached out to a buddy of mine over winter, and I just said, hey man, I've been thinking about coming back to Illinois and putting my lifetime deer tag hunting license to work. He's like, man, you got to come down. He's like, buy my old duck club and great whitetail. So this November, we're going back, and I'm on the pro staff for Muck Boots as well. So we are going to do a film for them, a long format. So looking forward to doing that, and just putting everything into it. So I'm really fired up about that. So I'm going to bow hunt for a week, and then the 3-day shotgun season should be pretty spectacular. So I'll have 2 tags, and we'll see how it goes. It'll definitely be filmed, we'll capture it.
Awesome.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bird hunting that you do up in the UP, do you do that on lakes, or do you go to some like specific lands? Because I've always wanted to bird hunt up here. I haven't done duck hunting in a long time.
Yeah, so the great thing about the UP, I haven't bird hunted, ducks or grouse and woodcock in Wisconsin, but in the UP, that's what we do. There's so much paper company land and CFR, which is basically, it's private land, but they get a tax break if they open it to the public, and you can go miles and miles and miles of endless bird hunting. And I mean, there's nothing like it. You're just driving 2 tracks all day, let the dogs get out and work these spots, and it's so enjoyable. And then in the evening, we'll go out and musky fish. So, I mean, it really doesn't get any better than that.
Cast and blast.
Exactly. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely a goal of mine, is to do the old cast and blast in the morning, hopefully get a muskie in the afternoon, in the late fall.
It shouldn't be too hard, right? Get a couple of birds, get a couple of muskies, go have a drink or
yeah,
two,
it's
go
easy,
to
right?
start over again. Yeah.
Yeah. I know we went on a tangent there, but I do want to go back to when we talked about fishing in saltwater. You brought up the fly rod, and I'm assuming you probably use the fly rod out in Montana.
Oh yeah.
Have you brought that into your musky game at all? Have you thought about it? Have you thought about making it
Man,
just as difficult as it already is?
oh shit. So the difference is, so saltwater, I didn't grow up saltwater fishing, and I didn't grow up trout fishing. And years ago, I said, if I was going to do this, I just wanted to catch them on a fly, you know? So when I bought my camp in the UP, actually, it was before I had my camp. And I just, I have to say, it was a river runs through it that got me. It just finally was like, man, this is beautiful. That's how it should be. So bought my first fly rod in 92 and, chasing steelhead and salmon in Wisconsin and Michigan and trout fishing. And that's what brought us here to Montana. And, going saltwater fishing, you kind of graduate to it. And the great thing about saltwater fishing is it's sight casting.
So you don't have to make as many
So
casts.
it's that. So that's the difference with musky fly fishing. I mean, I have yet to catch one on a fly, but like I tell guys who go permit fishing and, oh, did you catch it on a fly? No, I caught it on a live crab. Well, to me, that there's no skill in it. No offense to anybody who does it, but I don't care about that fish. It doesn't matter. There wasn't anything involved with it. You just threw it out. And I suppose you could say the same thing about sucker fishing, but I would never say that because I love sucker fishing.
Yeah, as we all know, that it's not like you throw a sucker down in the water, the muskies just come and eat it right away.
They're still freaking muskies,
They're
right? They'll
such
bump it,
assholes.
they'll move it. Oh my God. Yeah. So, little side note, that is what we're going to be filming in the fall. I want to capture that because guys who do it are freaking geeks about it. Mike Kramer, Kevin Cochran. I mean, I love it. I love it. So, but yeah, saltwater fishing, it is to be able to sight cast compared to throwing an 11 weight, 10 weight all day long, blind casting. I mean, I'm 55 years old. I've been musky fishing forever, and all these activities, swinging a hammer and, Jesus, to do that all day long with sink tip and, so rivers are definitely better for fly fishing because where the fish are usually going to be sitting in that current and ambush points where on any body of water. I mean, I do keep a fly rod in the boat. I have to, right? Whether it's a throwback bait or whatever, but it's tough to commit to blind casting all day. I just can't do it,
Yeah, you'd look pretty silly being out in the middle of Lake Bemidji throwing a fly rod.
Meanwhile, your buddy's killing them,
Right.
one after another. Oh,
Yeah.
52. Yeah, that would have been
Yeah.
nice. I raised them for you. Yeah, you got 5 casts to my, one.
Right.
Covering water. It's just, yeah, it's inefficient, but I totally respect the pursuit and the guys that do it. I mean, it is a big deal. It is a big deal. And one of these days, we fished with a guy out of Minneapolis, David Holmes, and fished the river with him. And I stuck one, and it just boiled. It was like in between strips, and that's all it takes, and had it on and got our asses kicked the rest of the day. And I'll do it. I want to get that shot with the fly rod and in the water. And yeah, you don't know unless you go. You got to cast a fly. If you want to catch them on a fly, you got to cast a fly. So
Truth. Another thing I wanted to bring up just while it's sitting in front of me looking at your Fishcamp YouTube is it's the thumbnail of your new video called The Cult. It's you
yeah.
holding that giant fish while you're in the water. I would assume that probably stemmed from the creative side of water releasing fish on the flats, like down south, I would assume.
That's it.
And that
Exactly.
shot that you got right there is like I it's just so cool. I've always wanted to do that. I've told these guys that obviously this has to be in like the warm water months, but if I when I catch hopefully, first 50, I'm gonna water release it. I'm gonna get in with it. And
Exactly.
and
Dude, get
even if
naked.
yeah. But that was so cool. I mean, that
It's
shot.
awesome. I mean, that was an awesome fish. That was that fish 50 and a half on the last day at like 10:15 or whatever. Bluebird day, not a cloud in the sky. It was absolutely terrible. But what's interesting, I caught that on a swim bait with a Mike Kramer ticker in front of it. So instead of like ripping it or whatever, I would just steady retrieve. I'd pump it every now and then, but that was a fish on this kind of a finger flat through it, bomb cast out there, and that first rip, that fish was on it. And to get that fish in, and the water temps were warm. We wanted to capture this fish. And so why not get in the water with it? And it's such a cool image. And when I posted that on Facebook, a guy's like, well, the Facebook police can't say shit about, how you're holding
Holding it
it
right.
or whatever. And dude, you're in the water. Fuck off. The police do come out though, as you guys, I'm sure know.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
God, yeah. It's I mean, I'm sure you've been putting yourself out there for quite some time now with the YouTube
Yeah.
and putting it on Facebook. And I mean, would you say the benefits though have outweighed the negative? Like, have you gotten good at just kind of brushing off some of the as you call them, Facebook police or whatever? Is it still just kind of like, what the hell are you talking about, man?
Exactly. It is what it is. I mean, ultimately, I love to capture this. I've always said is like, I've always had a camera around me since I was a kid. And, whether we're out duck hunting or whatever it was when we were kids. And, I mean, ultimately, someday I won't be able to do this. And I'll still have these films to look back on. I mean, look at the Lindners, Al Lindner, my God, the legacy of what they created. Obviously, I'm not comparing us to them, but they planted the seed on how to do it right. And I mean, yeah, it's just super cool to be able to do this. It is capturing the soul of what we do, and it's all authentic. So yeah, I don't know. Obviously, in these last few years, there's more people emboldened, and they think they're the authority on everything, and you don't even bother with it. Just swipe.
Yeah, keep it moving.
Exactly. Move on.
Those are the stay-at-home fishermen, the ones where their boat's cleaner than their truck and they don't use it
Exactly.
enough.
Well, it is interesting. I mean, when we lived in Chicago and we belonged to this fly fishing group, great group of guys. But so we would tie flies, we'd get together every week, and okay, we organize these trips, and like we're going up to Viroqua, we're going to fish these incredible trout streams.
Yeah.
And the Wisconsin DNR does such a great job with their maps and the quality of fish and where to go and what to do. So we'd go up there on these trips, and these guys spend all this money on gear, and they're like, well, where should we go? I'm like, the fucking water is right there, man. If I told you how to do it, it's no fun. I mean, learn it.
100%.
Get intimate with this water and figure it out on your own. We just spent the last, several months of winter, dude. Get out. So it is interesting, or hire a guide. I mean, I'm telling you, so speaking about the Facebook police, people are like, oh, but you got a guide. Dude, these guys are friends. They are professionals. This is what they do for a living. Do you have that much pride that you think you're better than them. I don't know what it is. I mean, man, if you're going on a week trip, why would you not try to get a guide on that first day or two and learn? We go up to Lake of the Woods, we get guides, these guys have been on it every day since the opener. Are you kidding me? We just got here. It takes time to figure that out. My time is more important than those few extra dollars, and then the other side of that is, you meet these people and you have this connection. And we're all friends, man. We're all doing the same stupid shit, chasing these things, it's awesome. So,
I think it's a great point. I mean, Gus, didn't you just recently have a deal like that with people hiring you on the front end of their trip?
Yeah, they're staying right here in Eagle River, and they've never been to the Eagle River chain, and they're like, we'll just get you for a half day, and we pretty much just fished as many spots as possible, and we raised a couple, caught one, or caught a couple and lost one. I don't know, but it was great, and they had a blast, and they're like, thank you so much. And then they went on to fish the rest of the week, and they had action every day, and they kept thanking me. And then I asked if I could use their picture. The one dude caught a nice one, and it was just super rewarding. I was so happy to see that it paid off, because a lot of the trip I was just pretty much like, we don't have time for this, but go fish this spot later, go fish this spot later, and just like, let me know how you do. That's all I ask in return. Just let me know how you do.
Right. Send me a picture and I can check out the background of where you're at.
Yeah.
It is pretty funny, because we go fish in Mexico and you'll show them a picture. Oh, have you caught a permit before? Yeah. They're like, yeah, let me see it. They don't give a shit about the fish, man. They're just like on the background and they know right where they're at.
Gus, does that remind you of anybody when we used to show tadpoles our pictures of fish? We'd go into the shop, he'd instantly grab the phone from our hand and start zooming in on the cabin.
Like, tadpole, whoa.
You're like, nice fish.
Look, dude, but yeah. Yeah, it's for real.
So
well, I'll tell you, I will say, the first time we signed up to fish the Spring Classic, a good buddy of ours, him and his partner have been fishing the PMTT. This is years back now, and never fished the Eagle chain. So I called up my buddy. I'm like, dude, what do you think about getting a guide? We don't know this piece of water. So we hired Ranger Rick. I'm sure you guys know him, down the road. Yep. And any comments? I'll leave it there. He's a great, for me, he's a great dude. He's originally from Chicago. I don't have to tell you guys about him. So we got along great with him. Anyways, so he's like, you guys grab your gear and whatever you want to bring. So we hop in the boat with him. We've got all our big silics and whatever. And he puts on these little Rizzo whizzes, or, those little inline, super small baits. My buddy Bernie and I are looking at each other like, are you fucking kidding me? We're going for muskies, man. Use big shit, right? And dude, we caught 10 fish that day for the tournament. I caught 7 of them. My buddy Bernie caught the biggest. I think it was a 45. And we're like, we're going to kill him tomorrow. We didn't catch shit the next day. It was unbelievable, but that was a hell of a day to catch 10 fish. And Rick is just laughing the whole time. We were all giddy about it. So it was a great break into Eagle River chain. Does that still happen? 10 fish in a day?
I don't know about
maybe on the right day.
Pressure. Yeah, you'd have to hit the right timing and
yeah.
know to
there
like
were storms moving in and
spots.
out. It was pretty spectacular.
Yeah. We've had similar occasions, but I feel like we maybe needed to spend more time on the water that day or something like that. Yeah, I've had 5 fish nights out there, but
nice,
not 10 fish days.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't beat that yet, so I don't know many people that have had those. So that was pretty spectacular.
we make the mistake now where like the Eagle River chain will always be near and dear to us because it's where we kind of learned how to musky fish and it's where we started and
Yep.
everything. And it's where our parents live still. But like now, I don't know if Gus, Brian, you guys agree with this, but it's like if we get a juicy weather day, we're out of there. You know,
Yeah.
we're going somewhere else. So I mean, it's a
A
great
juicy
fishery.
weather day.
I
Just
mean,
any
yeah.
weather day. We're out of there.
All right, yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's a great system, but like, you know, just like you talk about the chase and everything, but it's hard for like we've been fishing the same spots so long, and it's a great body of water, but there's so much
You
water in
fish it the
northern
same
Wisconsin,
and-
so it's like
Exactly.
we just want to keep exploring, and you know, we've been bouncing around lakes now for handfuls of years, and it's like we still feel. You know, I know Gus is a lot more dialed in than Brian and I, but like you go up there, it still feels like you're just scratching the surface, even after years of exploring.
Exactly. Exactly. And it changes season to season, you know? I mean, that's obviously that's the great thing. It is the chase. And when you do figure it out, I mean, it's a great accomplishment, or at least we figured it out for that moment, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always brief sometimes. And then you go back another 4 hour stretch and not seeing anything. You're like, all right, I suck again.
Right. I know you're standing there. And I mean, I say this all the time to myself. I miss seeing muskies, you know, like, or, you know, like to quote A River Runs Through It, I'm haunted by muskies. I'm haunted by permit. I'm haunted by bull elk, you know, like, did I just hear an elk scream? You know, was that a muskie follow? You know, like,
Oh yeah.
no, it was, you know, keep going, figure eight and whatever. And no, probably wasn't.
It goes.
So, yeah.
Got a question on any future fishing adventures. I mean, you've traveled a lot over the years, chased a lot of
Oh,
different
yeah.
types of fish. Is there one that's still on the bucket list, or like a certain location where you'd love to get to and film some content there?
That's a good question. You know, like in the fly fishing saltwater, guys are like, you got to go to the Seychelles and, you know, fish for GT, giant trevally. And man, I hate flying. And that is so far, that's the other end of the world. And it's stupid expensive. I think it's like 20 grand for a week. I mean, it's just stupid. I don't permit is enough. You know, that's it. Permit and tarpon and, you know, and muskies, you know. I wish I could spend more time. We do have muskies here in Montana, and there's some big ones for sure. I will probably put a little bit more time once I get the new boat in, but it's just, I don't know. For me, it's not the same. My connection to the Northwoods is pretty deep. So I love fishing for them. You know, and there's also the thing about it. If it is in your backyard, it's easy to take it for granted, you know? So when I commit to that trip to the Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, UP, you know, that is what we are doing there. And that's why we're there. So we are going to grind, or obviously Lake of the Woods. So it's nice to be able to do that. And then after that last cast, pack up the boat, head home, you know, and that gear is packed away. Now switch gears. Now, you know, whether it's hunting season or trout fishing here or walleye fishing up at Fort Peck. I mean, it's nice to switch gears and turn that off because you guys know that grind. I mean, Jesus, to go several days and like it wears on you. So as far as an exotic trip, you know, I'd love to go to what is that lake? My buddy Matt's been there in Canada. It's just a big water. What is it called?
Is it Rowan?
No. Oh, geez.
Would it be going for muskies or like Lakers or something?
Yeah.
Like
Muskies. Yep.
muskies?
Sewell?
Okay.
Lac Sewell. That's it. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
big fish up there. And it's wild. You know, Lake of the Woods is totally mapped out, which is really good because it can be super dangerous. I mean, there's rocks just under the surface. That's what makes it a great musky lake. But it can be dangerous. If you don't have that map chip, man, you better just idle along. What was the name of the lake? Black Soul.
Like so.
That is unmapped, although I did hear they just are mapping it, which may change it, but it's still far. It's still exotic. There's nothing around. It's wild country. Something happens, you're on your own. You got to be prepared when you go up there. So that would be a trip, but it's so hard because I don't know, man. October, I'm pulled in a million different directions. We put that 10 days into the Midwest, and I'm not giving that up. You can't just stack these trips, right? You can try, but someone's going to get pissed off.
Yeah, it's tough. I Lac Seul has been a bucket list of mine too. I'd love those muskies have such a cool paint job on them up there. Like they look so unique and
wicked,
historic.
Yeah, I feel bad for all those. I mean, I've never been to Eagle. I've never been to Lac Seul. Obviously, it pains me to hear all those guys that have been fishing those waters for a long time that have learned them and auto charted them and taken the time that they're going to chip them. It's like, I mean, I have no authority or anything on this at all. I could imagine that they're like, what the fuck? Like,
exactly. I totally agree with you. And, but right. It's what we do as humans, right?
Yeah. Survive in advance.
Live scope and everything else,
I know it would be nice though to still have some true, like not untouched, that's the wrong word, but just like uncharted, legitimately uncharted waters where you're having to go up there and figure it out for yourself. Cause
right.
That would be pretty, I mean, cause even in northern Wisconsin, like those a lot of those lakes, I mean, especially in some of the more remote areas, like they have navionics, but they're not even close to what is actually in the water. So
that's what's nice about that auto chart.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I use that machine every day.
Yep.
Every day. Even the Eagle River chain, I got a couple nooks and crannies that I don't think are on the old map chip.
Ah, nice. Yeah.
Just got to use it. I got to throw it on no matter what, even when I'm going fast, just get in the middle of the lake. Because all of a sudden you run over, say, 20 feet of water, and the map shows 20 feet of water, and then it bumps up to 18, drops back down, and I'm like, oh, I got that quickly on
What's sitting on that hump?
What's sitting on that hump? Is that sand, rock? Like, what's going on here? The transition to end.
Right.
That's added to the repertoire of just knowing spots, and that's been the biggest thing is up here is just knowing if the fish are going in certain spots. You just have to be ready to go to multiple lakes and know to go to rocks, know to go to cribs, weeds. But I was gonna ask something about Lake of the Woods since it sounds like you've been up there quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I know you've had probably your fair share of really good days and really tough days. What have you done to overcome some of the tough days? Are you guys making like big moves, or is it kind of like staying in the areas Like what's the deal with like where do you go out of in like the woods, I guess, is to start? Are you in like the lower, upper? I don't even know.
We're up in the Narrows. That's where we usually fish out of. Yep. But we travel, we've got, waypoints all over the place. And, it's interesting, like coming from fishing Wisconsin, and I still have that mentality that like a fish could be here, it could be here. So coming from that, you can fish a whole lake shoreline. And that is for sure on Lake of the Woods too. But the interesting thing about woods is, there's like we call them garages, where there's just like this little, it looks like a car could park in there. And it's almost a guarantee that there is a muskie sitting in there, whether it's the right time or right day, but there is definitely a muskie there. And everything we're doing is trying to, of course, figure out a pattern. And it is interesting, like last year, rocks were key. And we primarily fished 90% of what we fished were rocks. And we did good last year on the rocks. So you're always trying to figure out that pattern. But I will say, from where I put in at Young's at Angle Inlet to the Narrows where we stay, there's so much good water. And so I'm running back and I've got to stop, right? I mean, last time I'm going to fish this piece of water for another year. So the last 3 spots I fished on woods, I caught 3 fish, a 42, a 44, and a 46. I mean, it was amazing. And I'm like, I gotta go. I like, that's it. Did a walk off, like done, pack the gear. I'm going home and holy shit, the last 3 spots I caught 3 muskies. Yeah, sure. I could have went to the next spot and caught another one. But I'm good at 3 and go home. So
That's a great mic drop there.
It is incredible water. And the crazy thing that we keep talking about when we're up there is like, a guide buddy up there that we're going to fish with. His name's Matt Diamond. Really good dude, knows his water. And I rode him 2 years ago and I'm like, sent him a picture of my 50.5. And he's like, dude, that's a big deal. He's like, I'm on this water all the time. And over the hundreds of fish he's caught, I think it was like there are only like 20 some over 50. I mean, the stat was so low of 50s on that piece of water. And you'd think, God, there's so much water and there's so much food. You'd think that these fish would just stack up and there'd be 50s all over. So it is interesting. So getting a 50 for these last few trips on each trip is pretty badass. So
that's really incredible.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I don't know like a ton of people that go to, Lake of the Woods and up in Canada, but the ones that I do talk to, it doesn't like getting a 50 is for sure a big deal. It does not happen every trip for these people, even like 4-footers. I mean, the one common thing that I've heard a lot, and I don't know if you've been having this great success, but everyone that I talk to, even if they don't get these super giants, they always see the super giants. They always show their face no matter what, it seems like.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, the great thing about woods is it is definitely numbers. Last year I did really well. I got, I think, a couple of 47s, a 49, and then that 50.5 on my own. And I mean, it's just unbelievable water. But you're out there grinding every day and just covering water, and you're developing those patterns and just covering water, it's so key. But there are a lot of people, a lot of my buddies up there that fish, they'll hit this one spot, then they'll go to another, and they just like hit these spots. And I don't know if it's that, that Wisconsin mindset that I have, that a fish could be at any one of these spots and I have to work this shoreline, or is it laziness? I don't want to pull all my gear and run to the next spot and, but it works for both. So, but that's a great thing about fishing new water and fishing with new people. You learn so much.
Yeah, and I got to think, even with all the water up there, that there is, and I've heard from other people that there is dead water. Because I mean, even lakes here, there's some 500, 200 acre lakes, smallish lakes, and there's definitely spots where I think they look good. I try and hit them every time, and there's just never a fish there. And then there's other spots where they're just like, if they're going today, they're here. Like this is the area, but then like most of the lake is just dead. And I've heard from people like that's Lake of the Woods, and that's why people can struggle, because they're just, all they want to do is just like keep fishing everything like within
Yep,
eyesights, and
exactly.
that's where it gets tough.
Yep. And that's why it's just, man, you move a fish, waypoint, and just put together
Mhm.
this map and just connect the dots.
Mhm.
That's it. It is making those runs. And, once you do stick a fish or raise a fish, okay, where's the next spot that looks just like this? Let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
pretty
That's the
key.
beauty.
Yeah,
Tons of spots to just kind of look at, like, oh, this is an isolated island. That's where we got the last fish. Let's go try that. You
exactly.
know.
Same, wind-blown side or lee side of it, or that
Mhm.
tip of that current, man. Yeah, that's exciting to think about, knowing that I'm going next Friday.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I can tell just by your answer. You're like getting
I'm
fired
You're
up.
almost
ready
there,
to roll.
dude.
You're getting it all fired up in your head. Yeah.
Exactly.
But
I have these spots in my head as we're talking about this. I'm
so before you got to like where you are now at Lake of the Woods, and you're going there this coming week, or shortly, what
yeah.
what was that first Lake of the Woods trip, or when was it, or kind of what happened? What made you want to go there? What was the
You're gonna
planning going
love
on
this
there?
one.
Yeah.
Ranger Rick.
No kidding.
Seriously. He's like,
Really?
after we fished with him that day, he's like, you guys should come up, and he put this trip
Right.
together. And actually, he had a great program. Last year was his last time doing it. So, but he's been going up there forever. And so he put this trip together, and okay, everybody goes out, fish, and we got great rates, because it was a group trip. So everybody bring their boat, and so we'd go out and fish all day. We'd come back to the lodge, meet at 5 o'clock, and everybody would share information, colors, and there were definitely guys that were like, kind of holding back a bit, but for the most part, you've got 20 some guys on these trips, and obviously some guys are, shakers. They're moving fish, they're sticking fish. And then there's guys that it's their first trip. They don't really, know much about muskies. They'd love to catch one, but yeah, I just caught 3 walleyes today. Well, you're not going to catch muskies if, you're targeting, you know,
Yeah.
but so, you come back and you share that information. Is it the windblown side? Is it rubber? Is it, what's happening? What's the pattern? And as that goes on for 6 days, man, you learn so much. And, so that very first trip with a buddy of mine from lower Wisconsin, we learned so much, him and I mean, I caught 13 fish that week. And my first time going out there, and I'm throwing this little Booker shallow raider in a walleye pattern. And, these guys are throwing big rubber. They're throwing, whatever. And every day I'd come back and, yeah, I got 2 today. And they're like, the fuck is this guy? We've been doing this trip for years, I'm like, I'm just telling you, I'm not bullshitting. This is the bait, come
Yeah.
back. Yeah, I caught another one today, 47 was my biggest that trip. And they're just like, holy shit, this guy. So, and actually, so that's how I met my buddy Matt on that trip. And so he'd been from Illinois. We just hit it off and fished the same water. He's got a place in northern Wisconsin as well. And so we just hit it off. The next year, my buddy Bernie didn't go on that trip. So Matt and I ended up partnering, and we've been boat partners ever since. And yeah, it's an incredible piece of water. We learn so much every time we're out there. And it's interesting, fishing Minnesota, fishing Wisconsin, that Leech Lake strain, that has got me, it's so perplexing because you're, like I said, fishing that basin and these suspended fish and the amount of water on woods, I would love to try to, and that's what I'm going to plan on doing this trip, is to try to duplicate what I learned in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and try to target those bigger fish. And I don't know if they would be suspended or if they're deeper. I mean, obviously you don't want to catch them too deep because you'll kill them, get the bends or whatever.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, we're on that big fish quest, right?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Big fish consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wisconsin just feels, I mean, Gus can speak more to this, but for our experience, like the big fish in Wisconsin, at least for us, have just been so not see I would almost like be seasonal, but it's like mini seasons
Yeah.
within the season where all of a sudden like there'll just be a week stretch where it's like, oh, where were you the last 3 weeks?
Yeah. Right.
Like you were fishing the same spot and all of a sudden like there's just now a 45 there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't there for weeks on end or whatever. You never saw it, but there's like these
Right.
little time frames within the summer in Wisconsin where it feels like those, and obviously you can catch one whenever.
Exactly.
But it does feel that there's kind of these like little mini seasons within the season where these big fish kind of start to show themselves in Wisconsin. But
yeah, I mean, October is so hard to beat. And obviously, if I live there, I'd be out there in November as well. I mean, there's something about when that kind of sucker season, after turnover, and man, you just smell that wood smoke in the air and things are cooling off. And it just feels like a musky day, that big dark water chop. I mean, that's the time you're going to catch a big fish because you freaking deserve it, right?
I think back to I mean, yeah, we've had a lot of late season sends, but I literally think back to the one Thanksgiving, Gus and I were on a break and I think we spent 4 straight days late November out on this one body of water and we just fished our hearts out and we literally got a fish. Gus got a beautiful fish. The last night, full moon, coincided with sunset.
Oh, wow.
After 4 days of grinding on the same body of water because we knew there was big fish in there. We knew, we were on fish. We just couldn't get them to eat. And so we literally spent 4 days trying to get a bite.
Yeah.
And it happened on the last night for me at sunset. And we're just sitting there and there is not a soul on the water. I mean, you're talking, we're on a big lake in northern Wisconsin. You could hear a pin drop on the other side of the lake.
Well, you'd have to be an idiot to be out there, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it was so quiet and it was so calm. There wasn't a breath of wind. And we're just watching the sucker bobber like bopping along. And all of a sudden just right underneath the water. We're like, oh man, you can't make this shit up.
I love that.
It was so cool. I mean, that's that culmination of 4 days of just like grinding and having that pay off. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, that late season is cool. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, that reminds me of a time actually last October, fishing with Mike Kramer with my wife, brought my wife for the first time musky fishing in a long time. So it was a real treat. And Mike's a great dude for that, So the thing about Minnesota, you can only have one line per person. Mm-hmm. So Mike has a line and my wife has a license. So we have 2 lines out there on suckers. And every now and then she would cast but as we all know, it's a grind. And so we're working this area and I raised this really good fish, raised her a couple of times. And so the weather was crap. It's October. I mean, it was ripping wind. So we take a break, go to lunch. After we come back out, new boat ramp, and weather is crap. We're out, we get rained on, and we're going by the boat ramp. And my wife's like, I'm done. Take me back to the van. I'll go back with our dogs. And I'm like, Sam, it is going to happen. Just another hour, stick it out. You kind of know where this is going. So we go back to the spot. Mike throws out a sucker and I start casting. And all of a sudden that bobber goes down in 30 feet of water. And we're coming on the inside of this finger. and I'm casting, and that bobber goes down. Showtime. So get on top of it. Mike, fish with him long enough. We know what each other's capable of. So get over that fish, and I just reef into it, and fish is gone. Like, man, just blew it. So Mike throws that sucker back out there, and immediately that fish, it's really clear water. That fish comes right back out of 30 feet of water from the bottom all the way up and T-bones that sucker. I mean, it is the coolest freaking thing, as you can imagine. And get over it, and got that fish in, and it was 50 and a half. And I send a picture, we get it in the net, and it's beautiful light. And great photos, everything. So I send a picture to my wife, no comment. So Mike and I are taking photos, whatever. We let the fish go. And I'm like, Mike, I'm done. And he's like, what? You want to do a walk-off? And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm done. This is awesome. Got the fish. It's 8 o'clock at night or whatever it was. Like, it was a grind all day. And we got the fish, man. He's like, dude, I love it. Get back to the boat ramp. I'm like, how about that fish? She's like, what? I thought that was an old picture you sent me. Yeah, that was a great fish, man. Great fish. And then we went up and fished with Kevin for a couple days and got my wife. I think that was a 45 that she got. So great trip. And then went to Wisconsin and fished with Matt, and then up to the UP. So yeah, good stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, we're running about an hour and a half. So do you guys have any last questions here for Jody? And then he can kind of give us a send off with all of his all information where people can find him stuff. Gus, Brian, do you got any last questions?
I don't think so. None of mine. I covered a lot.
I got everything I wanted to ask. I was super excited for this interview. So I'm glad we got to. Thank you for giving us an hour and a half of your time. It really,
you bet. Yeah, this was a real treat. I mean, obviously we share the same passion. So, this is just a casual, it's an awesome conversation. So I could talk about it all day, right?
Well, if people are looking to check out your channel and everything you're about, where can they find you?
So fishcampcreative.com, we sell swag. We've got a bunch of stickers we've made over the last few years. We actually just came out with a 50 club sticker, and we're going to, on our Instagram, we're going to do a little clip. And if you catch a 50 this year, man, just mention us in your comments, say, hey, Fishcamp, send me a 50 club sticker, and I will do that. It's awesome. We're so passionate about this stuff, and to get that 50, here you go, man. Here's a sticker. Congratulations. So so we've got all kinds of swag on fishcampcreative.com, and our films that we're doing. We've got a lot in the works this year. So happy to release this yesterday on the cult, musky fishing. So other than that, you could check us out on YouTube. I think it's /Fishcamp or Fishcamp/YouTube. So yeah, you'll find us.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Well, we can't thank you enough for coming on. This has been a blast.
Yeah, you bet. Hey, it's my pleasure, you guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Jody. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank
you guys on the water, and good luck this season.
Yeah, you
Appreciate
too.
it. Thank you. And also great backdrop there. One of the better, maybe best that we've had on. Seeing the mountains in the background through the window. If the lighting changes, I saw that peek through a few times. I'm like, I'm missing the mountains right now.
Yeah, Paradise Valley, Livingston, Montana is pretty tough to beat. So yeah.
True.
That's awesome.
All right, guys. Thanks again.
All right.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Can't thank Jody enough for sharing his time tonight and chatting muskies and a whole bunch of other stuff in the outdoors. just what a great dude, well traveled, and it just brings a ton of knowledge and a lot of wisdom to the table. I love the way he kept using the word soul on talking about his videos. And if you haven't looked at them, or even if you have, I think you'll know exactly what he's talking about. Just the way that he presents anything he does in his work. He puts a lot of heart into it, a lot of soul, and a lot of time and effort. And it's just incredible work. So I think with that we should kind of talk about maybe a quick takeaway or two from the interview. I don't know if anybody wants to start or if they got something on their mind, because there's a bunch for sure.
Yeah. I mean, a lot to take away from there. I mean, I think I just really enjoyed the conversation as a whole. I thought we, you know, good storyteller, obviously, that comes through in a lot of his media that he does. But just great storyteller. Very obvious that he has a profound passion for not only the outdoors, but to hear him talk about Minnesota and Wisconsin and the UP, it all hits home. So really cool to be able to chat with him, a guy that's kind of captured a lot of the beauty up in these parts of the world and has done a really good job for it. So yeah, I mean really my main takeaway is just hearing about all of his travels and all the stories that come from it, and it just motivates I think me and hopefully you guys too to like just keep at this and keep doing it and keep kind of building that Rolodex of trips and stories and times, and
Hmm.
continue to do the filming and kind of hold on to all those memories and bank them for later on. So that was my takeaway. But yeah, great conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he hit on it multiple times kind of throughout the whole interview about like what makes it so special, or like why do we chase muskies or saltwater fish, and I think he kind of hit the nail on the head. Like you can go down into the ocean and live bait after redfish or tarpon, and a lot of times it's easy. Like you get into a massive school of them, and then you really just kind of it's just a matter of time, and that gets old after a while. But where like muskie and fly fishing kind of go hand in hand is like you're more so in a hunt. It takes time to find the fish. It takes even more skill to land the fish, and it's just so much more rewarding than at the end when you finally get the job done. And like he had stories of going 4 days without a fish, and then for whatever reason it happens last day, last minute, and it just makes it that much better. So yeah, cool hearing all of his perspective and hearing all about his travels. Would love to have him on again too. I mean, I'm sure he's got stories for days on all the places he's been. So it was awesome to hear
Yep.
from him.
Yeah. Oh, tons of great stories, and I think that's what mine's gonna be. It's exactly this story when he it's just when he was saying like he grew up in Chicago, he lives in Montana now, he's fished Minnesota, Canada, UP, and Wisconsin, then all of this, and then it ties back to way back in the day he's fished the Spring Classic, and he fished with Ranger Rick, and then that's how he knew, went to Lake of the Woods. I just think that's so interesting and hilarious. Like it all just like, oh, that's I just thought that was cool that it kind of tied into that. And
Well, it's like the relationships that you make, you learn so much about other places through the people you meet. Like that was like the most evident
right.
thing I think I took away from that interview is like all the guides he's fished with, the people he's met, the friends he's made has kind of like led him to this next adventure. Like he was always driving through Minnesota. Now he's fishing it all the time, because he's met
Hmm.
people to do that with. And I think that's a cool aspect of what can happen when you make buddies, make
Make
friends.
Yeah,
buddies. And then that's
I
the
do think
exact trip. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
I was just gonna say, like with him making all these friends with these different guides that he's gone out with in the past, like there's something to be said about having, building strong relationships with people when you're on the boat. You're out there for 12 hours and you might not be doing what you set out to do in terms of catching, but you're out there fishing and whatever it is, you become good friends as a guy that you might only fish with once every 2 years or whatever. Like, I don't know what it is, but just being out there, you're not on your phone, you can't go anywhere. You're stuck in a little boat, so you might as well chat and you learn a lot.
Right.
It's a good
Yeah,
point.
if you can be in a boat together and fish muskies, not not any of the others, like specifically muskies for a full day. Like you could be good pals like anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
Sure.
Man, that was yeah, we'll have to get him on again. I hope he has his boat in time for heading to Lake of the Woods, and that he has a successful trip there. And of course, we all can't wait to see what he has in store for YouTube. But just looking forward to each and every video. But yeah, again, if y'all didn't hear it, the new little documentary he put out, The Cult, a musky fishing documentary is pretty slick. It's 12 minutes long, and it is just every second of it is just perfect, meaningful, and exactly what musky fishing is in a 12-minute nutshell, I should say.
Yeah, it's well done. Well, let's get on to a few, I guess, current events here. Before we get into the northern Wisconsin stuff, Gus, to get a little update there. You did send in the old Madison clip to the PMTT to get a little recon bonus reward bucks. So that was put out into the ether finally.
Yep.
Nice little 6,500 views later.
Oh, seriously? Is that what I haven't looked at it since like the hour it came out. I'm not gonna lie. Dude,
I had to go back and look just because I was like, oh, if there's any really funny comments, I was gonna bring them up tonight. It's if I have a few more Coronas, maybe I'll just go on there and start firing comments back to people. Like there was one guy who commented like reached out too far, and I want to comment back so badly and be like, oh, really? Like, I thought I fucking nailed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. Oh
like,
my
God
God.
damn, we got a modern day Sherlock Holmes on our hands here, people.
Great detective work. Love it.
I was just kind of peeping in. Like, I was getting a good kick out of it. There was somebody who commented asking if you needed a new partner, Gus, and then they deleted it. So I don't know if they got cold feet, if they got nervous or what, but just some
step forward, coward.
just some good stuff. So yeah, that was funny. I'm sure I'm glad that lives out on Facebook. Very normal place for normal people to comment normal stuff. So
the safe space for sure.
Yeah. Well, hey, free entry. At least got us something.
Yeah, I'll take $750 to get embarrassed. No doubt. Shit.
Sure.
I know I've gotten embarrassed for far less dollars.
Yeah.
So
All right.
Anyways, how's the bite been in northern Wisconsin, Gus? Give us a debrief here. What's been going on in the North Woods? What do Brad and I got to look forward to coming up and spending some days in the boat with you here next week?
You guys got the new moon to look forward to. And looking ahead at the weather, it looks to be actually potentially one of the most stable weeks of all time this whole year. I see like mid 70s as the highs, and almost every single day. And I mean, today was a high of 66 or 70. I don't know. It said a couple things, which is BS. I went on the water for a little bit, and I was wearing a sweatshirt and pants to start. And after like 30 minutes, I had my full bibs and double hoodie rain suit on. I'm like, this is what the hell's going on here? It's about to be, whenever this pod drops, if it's Thursday or Friday, it's about to be 45 in the morning and getting more rain. A lot of rain, a lot of wind, a lot of mixing of the water, a lot of water moving. And I think with that happening, I think the fish are moving constantly too. Finding consistent bites has been very, very difficult to stay on. I've been lake hopping a bunch. These fish have been just, I don't think scattered. I think that is the wrong word to use. It's not like the post-spawn time period. I mean, it's for sure getting close to summer peak, although our temperatures are still in a lot of lakes with some of this wind and cold. We're back below 70 again for water temps. We were just at 72 at the most recent warm up that I saw. And the fish are just like wolf packing around and just like bopping over to these different spots, it seems like. And if you're not there on moon or a specific weather event where they are, you could even be on a great spot. And if they're just not there, like you're just nothing's gonna happen. So you got to play your cards right and hit your windows accordingly. I mean, it was just the other night on Tuesday Night League. Well, I guess I'll go over Monday Night League first, which was just pretty nuts. It was low numbers caught that night. The weather actually felt pretty good. There was an incoming storm around 11 p.m. midnight that night, and the numbers on the league were actually low. It was like 7 fish in total caught, and
Crazy, man.
which is crazy. I mean, it's pre-storm. And so the lake that I chose a smaller lake off the chain, and typically it's great in late June. And there was three other boats. I think two of them were in the league and one wasn't. And after talking with them that whole night, not a single one of us saw a muskie in 5 hours. All of the
Dang.
boats. That's how shut off that lake was. And this was actually consistent between a few other lakes. Talking with buddies at the bar. This is, the beauty of league. And chatting with your buddies afterwards, you ask where they fish, and they're like, yeah, we saw zero or one or didn't even like have a chance. And it's like, geez. And you wonder what the hell sets these fish off or what puts them to sleep. It's like, I mean, we couldn't even side image a fish out there. It was pretty ridiculous. I mean, I know there was another, like, even if we moved lakes, like one of the lakes we could have moved to, it probably was also shut off entirely based on talking to other people. Like, I don't even know what we could have done to get it done correctly. And then Tuesday night, Clayton stuck one, which was awesome. And it still came from kind of bopping around spots to find out where they were. We were checking out two spots, a point and a mid lake structure where Clayton knew there was fish recently. And we started league during the major and we didn't see a single fish. And then we went to the third spot, another like a rock bar, and he said this is where they didn't see any the other week. And then all of a sudden I get a hot follow on big blades, and then he catches one in the figure eight on the deuce like a few casts later, and we think it was a different fish, and then we wrap around it and there's a few other fish sitting on the other side. Then the major's done, and then the fish are gone, like completely gone, and we didn't see a fish
Jeez.
the rest of the night. And then in Tuesday night league, there was only three caught in the entire league. And it was just pretty crazy to hear that. I mean, a lot of good sticks in these leagues. And just hearing that people are having some struggling, it's kind of seems to be pretty consistent between a lot of people. So I'm really hoping that it can just continue. I think the water just needs to get a little bit warmer because I've been out a bunch and we're getting bites, no doubt about it. Like bites are coming, and just sticking them and keeping them pinned to the boat has been very difficult. So it's been a tough late June, but I think hopefully with more consistent weather, obviously that's a lot to ask for with where we live. And maybe not consistent, I guess. At the very least, warmer weather would be nice to get these fish to fire off a little bit more, because a lot of the lake groups and lake types that I love to fish this time of year have been pretty rough. And so I think they just need a little different weather pattern, possibly the quarter moon or the new moon coming up. I think will definitely be a lot better.
Gotcha. Nice. Well, appreciate you filling us in. If somebody was going out this weekend, they're listening to this on their way up to the North Woods. I guess if you had to give any insight on maybe where they could go find a bite right now, I mean, what would be like your confidence as far as like type of lake or something like that right now?
Well, it's difficult to say. I mean, it's if you like, stained water, if you like clear water, that all depends. There is actually currently mayfly hatch going on, and it's finally actually the big hexes. It's the big mayflies that really pull fish off shoreline weeds, and that's actually where most fish are coming from. And I'm seeing is mid-lake structures. Some of them do have weeds, but majority of them are rock and sand, and a lot of transition lines and a lot of roaming fish. So I've been finally doing a little bit of trolling, found a little bit of success, but with the electronics I got, the side image and live and looking back at the trolling lures, we got a lot of window shoppers. I'm finding a ton of fish out there, and getting them to open their yappers has been a true testament. It's been difficult. I don't know if I do need to become a night prowler and get these fish to go at night or something, or what, but they're there, definitely on them. But getting them to open their mouth has been the true test.
Uh-huh. Well, maybe getting Brian in the boat will change your fortune.
For sure. Need the ringer.
Gotta. I ain't getting skunked. No way. Stay out all damn night if I have to.
We'll see about that.
Oh, we'll definitely fish
That's
into the
not
night, I
true.
think, a little bit.
Just gotta take it easy on the beers during the day if we're gonna go out there at night.
Bears.
The Bears. That's all right,
Yeah, it's
man.
gonna be
If
a
I'm
fun
driving the
time.
truck and driving the boat, you can do what you want.
Oh God, don't say that.
Arr.
Don't give him his free reign. You gotta set some ground rules for Brian. It'll be a
Free
fun
reign.
time. I'm excited to get out there with you guys. I think we're gonna have some fun. It'll be a good fourth. I mean, we're gonna have a pod that comes out during the fourth. But we'll touch on some of our adventures. We might do a little night fishing, and we'll get out there together. So it'll be good to get the band back together. It's been too long, all the way since Northern Opener.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
be a good time. Anything else you guys want to touch on? I think top of mind right now in the old musky world of things before we sign off here tonight.
No, I don't think so. I think we're all caught up. Like I said, water temperatures are right around 70. Seen a couple drop below, and I'm sure there's a couple that are hanging above it. And yeah, like I kind of said before, I mean, bucktails are still always going to catch fish, but um, the rubber baits and rubber bites, after seeing the one just annihilate Clayton's Medusa boat side, they're ready. They're ready for the rubber game, that's for sure. So that's what I'm
Oh,
excited about. A lot of actually the nicer fish that we've also been raising have been on rubber. So it's
okay. We're close. We're close. So anybody who's tuning into this that's building baits or working in a shop or out on your boat or driving up to the North Woods or even going to your day job, we appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Gus, do you want to take us away here with some of your guide information? And we'll let
sure.
Brian sign us off.
Yeah, if you want to get in touch for a trip, you can reach me at my socials, which is at Sugs Fishing on Instagram or Sugs Fishing Guide Service on Facebook. I also have a website, www.sugsfishing.com. And I might have a couple days left in July. I might make a post on a few of the times, a couple half days within an already booked half day. But if you're looking to get out more in August and September and the fall, I have a lot more flexibility and openings there. And that's I'm really looking forward to it. I don't want to wish time away, but that late August, probably when we get back from Minnetonka into, a little bit after Labor Day is one of my favorites now. I absolutely love that, and on a couple bites there that I'll be watching for, waiting to see develop. So pumped for that. Pumped for the new moon coming up. Just, pumped for true summer fishing. So
Nice.
and also be sure to follow our Instagram for Muskies on Tap, which is just at Muskies on Tap. And
Shout
yeah,
out.
I believe that's
Shout
it.
out.
Yeah, shout out. So yeah, Brian, you want to take us away here?
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Muskies on Tap. Shout out to Jody with Fishcamp Creative for coming on this week. Very generous with his time. Awesome to listen to. Great stories. Great films. Check them out on YouTube.
It's lagging so bad.
So
You're lagging,
guys,
boy.
getting
You're lagging, boy.
here, America. See, now we got another fish. Bad, but it doesn't matter. Shout out to the Panthers for the Stanley Cup. And yeah, hit them straight this weekend. Good luck to hooks this weekend. And maybe bring the forks on the boat if you're trolling at night.
Worst
Fish love the
outro
vibration of
ever.
water.
wrap it up.
God, this is
Just
an absolute
lagging the whole
mess.
time. Yeah, that'll come through great.